I'm looking to buy a new car. Bear with me here. This has a point. And I've narrowed it down to two vehicles that are made by the same manufacturer, Mazda. And these two cars are so similar. They are so close together in what they offer. Price, mileage, driving capabilities, storage, all of it. It's so close that it's a very difficult decision to make. And I have been perseverating over this decision for the last week or so. And of course, YouTube and the crazy algorithms that make it tick are so smart and intuitive that they know exactly what I'm thinking about at all times. So I go to my homepage of YouTube these days, and I always see the same thing. I see videos literally hand-fed to me that are comparing the Mazda CX-30 and the Mazda 3, and they are saying which one is better. This is my opinion. And I've watched like 20 of these videos. Of course, it's 50-50, and it's still impossible to decide, but that's besides the point. The point is that John Isner and Reilly Opelka are the same. It's the same thing. They're always going to be compared to each other. They're both made by the same manufacturer, the United States of America, and they are in the same exact class. Some would call it the serve bot class. They have elite serves, and they are both north of 6'10" in height. So today, I am going to compare those two and what they're good at and what they're bad at and their attributes, and I will attempt to answer the question, which one is better? And I would specify that as to say, who will have the better career when it's all said and done, or who will reach a higher peak level, I think is more what I'll be trying to evaluate on this video. Speaking of which, it's brought to you by Reilly Tennis. Reilly Tennis is a mobile app that makes it easy to play tennis in your area. Whether you want to compete or just train, creating an account is free. Just head over to rallytennis.com or search for Reilly Tennis in the App Store. And if you sign up and use me, Gill Gross, as your referrer, you'll also get $10 towards your account. John Isner and Reilly Opelka are always going to be compared to each other. It's just how it is. They are in the same class. So, of course, they are everything they do, it's going to be matched up. So let's do it. Let's start with the serve, because that is the pillar of both of their games and what makes it so difficult. And that is to say that if you gave anyone in the top 100 the serve that Isner and Opelka have, they would be a very high level player, and they would have a career in the top 20 or the top 30 or higher, just like Isner has had or Opelka is poised to have. And the timing of this video, to timestamp, you can watch this video anytime and it will be relevant. But right now I'm making this video right before Reilly Opelka is going to play in his first Masters 1000 final in Toronto against Daniil Medvedev. But let's talk about the serve. And right now, I think John's serve is better than Reilly's serve. Now, I think that comes down to spot serving and variation and the quality of the spin variation that John Isner has. You see, Isner's flat serve is a flat serve. There is no spin on it, and it really maximizes the miles per hour. Then Isner has his slice serve, which in my opinion is Reilly Opelka's best serve, is that slice serve. And then the kick serve that John Isner possesses is the best in the world, and I still think it's better than Reilly's, and I think Isner does an amazing job at using the entire box and using all of his variety, whereas Opelka has gotten better throughout his career, and I think his kick serve has improved immensely. I still think his flat serve has quite a bit of slice on it, which is not a horrible thing when your slice serve is still going to be north of 135 miles per hour. But he's leaving a little bit on the table there, especially because that slice serve can actually tail the wrong way. It can tail towards the returner if you're hitting a T serve on the deuce side or a wide serve on the ad side. Ultimately, though, I think both of their serves have really, really solid technique with consistent ball tosses. It is difficult to read. Isner is a little bit harder, I think, to get a read on when it comes to the serve based on the fact that he tosses it in the same spot every time. But Opelka is pretty close as well. And what I'm getting at here is by a tiny margin right now, I think that Isner's serve is better. But the serve is the shot that throughout a player's career often will improve faster than and more steadily than any other part of a player's game. I've seen it with so many players where their spot serving and their variation and their percentages just get better and better and better as the careers go on. And the best thing about the serve is it's not really capped by age. Now, there was a point where Andy Roddick, his shoulder kind of went out on him and he wasn't the same server that he was. But you see with guys like John Isner, who is still extremely relevant in his mid-30s. You see with a guy like Ivo Karlovic, who is finally set to retire at over 40 years of age, that the serve can be something that can last a tennis player a very long time. And for that reason, I think Reilly Opelka and John Isner are in the mold of players who can actually peak at ages like 32, which is, I believe, the age that John Isner had his best season and won his Masters title in Miami and reached his career high, number 8 in the world. So I think that Reilly Opelka's serve can easily reach the heights that John Isner's serve has reached. Ultimately, it's both a super strength for both of them. But let's now go to the weakness of their game. The reason you don't want to be 6'11" in tennis is because you are probably going to move slowly. And that is a trade-off that isn't ideal in tennis. It's much better to be like Daniil Medvedev, to have a healthy 6'6", which gives you an advantage on the serve, but also preserves your ability to cover the court and move. And unfortunately, neither Isner or Opelka have elite movement. And who has better movement? That question is nuanced because I think Opelka covers the court better. He covers the court better. He runs better. He, again, makes up more ground. But John Isner has better footwork in the sense that he does well to use those small micro adjustment steps to get the ball in the correct position where he's now ready to hit it in his strike zone. Not too far away, not too close, not too high, not too low. It requires some precision and footwork to achieve that when you're in a baseline rally. And John Isner actually has pretty good footwork when the ball is in the middle of the court. Opelka doesn't. Opelka's not in the best position always. But when it comes to a baseline rally, Opelka's way more mobile, and I think it gives him a better chance if he can just develop those finer details of footwork. If he can improve that, I think he has a better base athletically. He is, to me, a more capable natural athlete. And when it comes to who is going to win baseline rallies, from a movement perspective, I think Opelka is in an advantageous position because he runs better. Plain and simple, he runs better. His acceleration, his top-end speed, his lateral movement, it is all superior to John Isner's. Now, what about the ground game? And let's start with the forehand. This is another spot that is probably a little bit nuanced, but if I'm being honest, I'm taking John Isner's forehand over Reilly Opelka's forehand, and I'm doing so without much hesitation. I think John's forehand is really good, and the thing that I feel pretty comfortable relying on for it is that if Isner gets a short attackable ball, I'm pretty confident in the conversion rate that Big John is going to come up with in his ability to strike a strong and aggressive forehand in the court. Reilly's forehand is just as big as John Isner's. Both of them have massive forehands, but Reilly misses more. and John's technique is much more fluid. Opelka's forehand is something that so far has held him back in his career. There's a hitch in his technique. It just doesn't look quite right. And again, sometimes the result is still really, really good, and Opelka can hit excellent forehands. But then sometimes it goes completely off the rails. He's missing tons of forehands, and there was a case midway through 2021 where Opelka went on a 5-match losing streak, and the culprit was the forehand. It's because he had no confidence in that stroke. He just couldn't make the forehands in the court because of Opelka's technique. And I can't break it down in detail, but I can tell you it's just a little bit herky-jerky. There's a hitch in it. Because of that, there is more inconsistency in his forehand on a macro level, on a micro level, and you just don't know what you're going to get. But when it's clicking, it is just as potent, maybe even more powerful, maybe even more potent than John Isner's, because he hits it a little bit flatter, and I think it gets through the court a little bit better sometimes. So when it's clicking, it's actually just as good as Isner's, but he needs to work on that consistency. When it comes to the backhand, this is Reilly Opelka's most impressive side. Not only can he step in and hit a strong and powerful backhand down the line that I feel good about, but he can also hit an open stance backhand on the run that keeps him in a baseline rally, or maybe even counter strikes and gives him and turns the advantage in the rally in favor of Reilly Opelka. Opelka's backhand is pretty special. I like how when he goes down the line, there's a little bit of side spin on it, and it kind of tails away from the court. And again, I really like that he can hit an on-the-run backhand with relative ease, and he looks natural and fluid doing it, even at 6'11" to 7 feet tall. Isner's backhand has always been the side that you want to find, the bailout side. Yeah, he can play aggressively with it, but it misses an awful lot when he tries to add that extra aggression, and he really doesn't defend on it well. When it comes to hitting on the run especially, Isner's usually just going to slice it, and once you get that, once you get a look at the John Isner running backhand slice defense, you're probably going to win the point given his movement deficiencies. Opelka is a much better candidate to stay in the rally and still win the point. And overall, Opelka's backhand is just much, much better. At the net, this is the area where I think it's pretty hard to discern between the two of them. I think they're both good volleyers. But if I remember to when John Isner was Reilly Opelka's age, when John Isner was in his early 20s, I think that Isner was a much worse volleyer, if I'm remembering correctly. And Opelka, I believe, is very far ahead of where Isner was at that age. Right now, I think both of them are good volleyers, capable volleyers, and I would put them about equal, giving Opelka a chance to surpass Isner's level if he continues to develop in that area. Lastly, the mentality. And again, this is a part of the sport that always gets better with age and easily gets better with age. And it is another reason why I think Opelka can have his best years on tour when he's 30 years old or older. But right now, John Isner mentally is way better than Reilly Opelka. Isner doesn't get enough credit for how mentally strong he is, for how sharp he is in his shot selection, how simple his approach is, how confident he is in his approach, and how rarely he gets negative, and how comfortable he is playing in the fine margin, high pressure situations that his game constantly forces him to play. Reilly Opelka, on the other hand, is a little bit of a roller coaster on the court, and he can easily get very down on himself. He can go dark on himself, and he can say things like, I suck, I'm terrible, and can put himself in a really dark place if things are not going well, if he's not playing well. He needs to get that out of his game, and he needs to start to learn how to just kind of roll with the punches and the ebbs and flows of a tennis match. And again, I think that will come with age. Right now, Isner's mental is a lot better than Reilly Opelka's. In conclusion, I think Reilly Opelka is going to have a better career when it's all said and done than John Isner. Opelka, most importantly, above all, is a better natural athlete, and I believe that gives him a higher ceiling. I see him as someone who will develop a serve on par with John Isner's serve. It's not quite there yet, but I think it's getting there. And he has an ability to win rallies with higher frequency and therefore break serve with higher frequency. And when you couple that with the serve and with the big forehand, I think that's the key here in this kind of player. How well do you move? How well do you rally? Can you put some pressure on that's going to give you a chance to break some serve? How close can you get to kind of can you achieve this kind of Matteo Berrettini skill set? Berrettini is going to have a great career for sure. How close can Opelka get when it comes to winning baseline rallies, playing baseline rallies? How close can he get to Berrettini? If he can get close, well, his serve's going to be better than Matteo's. That's a good comparison. That's a good ceiling for Opelka. But again, because he moves better and because I think he rallies better, I think he will have a better career than John Isner. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.